Hello. So, I've been working on making sure everything fits, and as I do, I like to talk sometimes. But I want to talk a little bit about this critical path that I'm on. Make sure there's nothing missing. Um, just know that as I go further down the critical path, they get bigger and bigger chunks. There'll be new dependencies that I'll discover and fill in. But there was this idea of an import mapping that was a rebuild on a context, which is the identifier connecting to code, connecting to path where it exists. It's using a shorthand to find something. And then it has a parent and a root, so it's easier to say, look, I'm working over here, and I can use a really shorthand to just say this is exactly what I need. Easy to find things. So the purpose of that is just to make sure I can find what we can do. And I push that into some tree utilities because these tree out, and then there's patterns and search and various ways of getting it and updating, upserting, cloning code. Okay, so it can be any language, any system, any whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just simply here's a way for me to kind of keep track of things that I'm doing. So various repos or whatever. So that was the thing that slowed me really down. And then I push all that into a catalog, keep it organized, described, and that, also serialized and durable, that sort of a thing. But then that whole chunk was not really expected before I got the revisit on the message-driven architecture that I really want to have. And the reason for that is that I think we can do more or less with these tools a closer to linear lift or cost, even if we're doing some pretty exponentially fast growth. Meaning, um, as I work at higher and higher order functions, higher complexity, more and more validations, more automation that's running the same tools, that starts looking like, yeah, it's a lot of awareness and functionality that's being handled in every cycle. So that's expected. But with the message-driven structure, it's like, well, yeah, but we have theoretically, we can use various algorithms to push to a linear time and space complexity. And we'll see. This is not an easy problem. The reason for all of this is because as powerful as LLMs and ML and deep learning algorithms and dynamic programming and all the reinforcement learning and all the research and all the good things that everybody is doing, as good as that is, none of those, as far as I understand, can create as well a universal interface with how things are being used in the real world to build what I call the ambient mesh to say, hey, let's integrate something. Easier to integrate an application or a service, into somebody's life and get a nuanced and critical feedback loop. It's the feedback loop that's going to keep us from extending what we want to do through a digital mesh, through an ambient mesh. If that's weak or we don't trust it or we don't actually own our own ambient mesh, if we can't actually say what's going in, what's coming back out, and how is it being used, if we can't trust our engagement with it, then that disconnect slows us down in ways that create a dystopian future. We still might create a dystopian future. The more time we can create, the better. If we have 3 generations to do this, that's a lot better than 3 years. But whatever it's going to take, we're kind of getting forced by the oligarchs and the dictators and the nuts in our species, the people that would trade somebody else's ability to live for their for their whatever win they're looking for. So that disconnect is forcing us to go faster. We need to empower, the things that are being destroyed. We have to turn around and say this is actually worth it on any basis. Let's just talk it through. And then people that don't understand that can take a leap. So anyway, so that's we get it through catalog message driven in order to see if we can maintain something. So a lot of complexity got kind of pushed in, slowed me down quite a bit. That's been really frustrating. Pushing everything into services, good services, the way Lou Downs talks about it, and really pushing that in. And then I got what I just call offer ellipsis operation, meaning start with an offer, make sure we understand what the value of it is, cost, risk, underwriting, the entity involved, sub offers. And so this is the thing, service, it's a product, it's a conversation, it's something of value, but in context of service levels, outcomes, risk, reality. I could say, hey, I would like to build you this thing, but I've never done it before, and there are 40 problems I haven't solved. And I think it'd take 6 months, but I've never solved these kinds of things. It could take 6 generations. So those risk underwriting processes. Of course, underwriting saying when things don't go right, what do we do? Can we hedge this? Can we get insurance? Can we share the pain? Is there a co-op or something in place that can underwrite the difficulty of this offer, right? And that goes into choice, and then we get into agreements, the conversation. We actually say, "Yeah, I'm in," and who's leading out, and then that could go into a service or an operation. Sure, if it's clean, but most likely it goes into a flow, and really go through interactively and then show and transparently show what are we gaining in functionality by making the offer. We're actually gaining capacity and functionality. And so by pushing it through a flow and using these types of tools, yeah, a lot will get automated and can future get automated even more because, this is a very auditable operational lab that we're doing everything in. So that's good. This isn't the only way to do things, but I like how general, any type of problem, any type of work, any type of conversation, any type of awareness, any type of collaboration, everything I can think of from systems science, computer science, environmental science, political science, real science, physics and biology, and astronomy and space travel and military science and hopefully we don't need that much very much longer. The more of us that can stare into the pale blue dot and start to say, wait, we're on this vessel, and when we look out, it's kind of cold and dark, and Mars isn't. That's a booby prize. I'm not saying we don't go to Mars. I still think we can go to Mars, but let's do it together. This is not an oligarch's playground, and nor is it a dictator's ability to choose. It's what we collectively can do has more value. So by treating us like parasites, we discount the actual capacity here. Imagine the trillions upon trillions upon trillions of choices that we can filter through just because we have DNA, because we have collective intelligence, because we have written history, because we have disparate beliefs and disparate outcomes and disparate experiences. That right there is a wealth of things that the more you discount, the less capacity. It's like, yeah, let's go to the moon and let's dump out all of our rocket fuel before we go because, it stinks. Or I think I want to be the hero here. Anybody that has a hard time with success of others um, because they want to be the hero, that's something to pay attention to. Imagine children were dying and you wanted to go and bring a submarine in the cave, and you get the picture. I've been learning through meditation and frustration um, to congratulate people that I feel jealous of, where I feel like they've stolen my thunder, or they succeeded where I haven't yet, or they're smarter than me, or richer than me, or more powerful, or more charismatic, or they seem to have the social graces or the reputation of the time. I really been breaking down over some of these father-son relationships, and how amazing they can be. Um, so learning how to not discount and deal with that. So anyway, I guess I'm exposing a piece of my humanity tonight. But anyway, so getting offer through operation, so we can actually say, look, I want to do this, anything it takes, and then let's do it. And if we go through some iterative processes and we learn and we create multiple ways of doing the same thing, and then we really push it down asymptotically towards an efficient solution, and really engage it so that it's not the shitification of our lives. Anytime there's discount, ego was involved. That is true. A part of our biased consciousness that says we need to protect ourselves. And if we protect ourselves by discounting some of what we need to go forward, that's stupid. Just because we don't have an answer yet doesn't mean that that's the best we can do, right? It takes more than that. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm on one tonight. So offer through operation. There's this. I'm calling it right now a proof of concept using Jax, but it's a few years ago. I've told some friends about this, but the idea that you just put a basic index on choice. You know, top 10 values, top 10 choices, top 100, top 1,000, whatever. Make some choices. Record what the questions were, record what the answers were, and then record what the outcomes are. Put that in a vector, and then make sure that there's some auto differentiation available from the outcomes as we start to look at, oh, okay, so I understand. So this choice is really keeping me from acknowledging certain opportunities or engaging in certain ways. So I can have this reflective feedback in a really simple way that's just, 100 lines of code that should be able to demonstrate an interface to a person, and then also be able to say, okay, yeah, without even telling them details, the systems can have over a channel, and with the protocol can say, look, I'm always broadcasting things I want to do, and we can just really quickly know whether or not there are others around us that would do that with us along the ways of how I do things. And we can just say, okay, great. So let's just start. Instead of we starting at zero, let's start at 100, or let's start at the moon, let's start at Mars, let's start at the outer edges of our capacity to comprehend. We're already aligned these ways so that we don't burn a ton of energy convincing the other person, hey, I need to solve a problem, and this is what I've learned about the problem so far. It's it's not only just looking for efficiencies, it's also looking for other ways of doing things, and let's collaborate with those that don't agree with us. This involves the position proxies. I mean, there's some really, really cool possibilities about how we collaborate and solve problems with other people if we just keep our position really simple. So that's what that is. So we get in through some of these tools, we keep our position really clean, we go distributed very fast, and then we're pushing a calendar that's really a capacity scheduling. And what we're doing is we're learning to figure out, well, what do I need for rest and maintenance? What do I need when I'm really going to work? What do I need from social interaction? What do I need from, nutrition and health and vitamin D and a walk in the woods? And what do I need? And then what can I give? And then schedule things around that so that it's not about, um, oh, I should be able to do this. Like, no, this is where we are. The closer we are to being honest with where we are, the less energy we spend trying to pretend and then work around and then manage and manipulate and control. I mean, that's just bullshit. So instead, what we just simply say is, look, I'm going this direction. Um, I've got this much energy right now. You know, my willpower might be weak or my whatever. So that's the capacity planning. The next one's conversation. So I'm going in this direction. Let's have a conversation. I can do this. You can do that. We're not ready to collaborate yet, but let's create a long memory. And then as we get things done, and we already have channels with their protocols that's available in the offered operation ellipses, what we end up doing is we say, oh, there's a protocol for communicating and onboarding the other person on this is where we're at. These are the choices. As I get things finished and they get things finished, the opportunity to actually come together and work together, it kind of presents itself over a long memory. That capacity grows and we learn from one another our experiences. So our opportunities to actually say, no, actually, we've got a solution here. So think about, collaborating on papers. Think about starting a company. Think about, reaching out to a child who's really struggling. Think about, finding a mental health care professional that would really work for an emergent situation or an ongoing situation. Think about the cost of living. Think about it. All the things that you care about, create a long memory, and then have conversations and learn from the other people and let things be kind of automated. And then just come back from time to time. Sit down over a Sunday night and have interesting conversations, and engage from time to time as as we can do enjoyably, spend some time on a porch and just talk or whatever your conversations look like. I'm just saying my ideal is pretty relaxed. That's why I kind of ramble sometimes. Anyway, so we go through the process of really keeping that onboarding clean, automate what we can, having it go over channels, push into the coder. Again, with unit tests, with all sorts of code tests, with real true uses, not just use cases, but actual usage of applications, solutions, services that are solutions. When we start shipping these, and anybody can say, look, this is my common sense, and then we start to acknowledge that actually solves it better. We take back our algorithms, we take back our attention loops, we take back our dopamine cycles, we take back our information, we take back things that other people think they own of us. We stop commoditizing one another. We just simply handle our lives. But having applications deliver kind of this mesh interface where what we build is the ability to validate whether or not we're on track. What would it practically cost to deliver this practical solution? So instead of it being language models, or instead of it being machine learning models, or dynamic programming models, or reinforcement learning models, or a combination, or, it's more of an and. It's like, hey, here's the thing, here's the solution. Is this easier, better for you than the thing you were doing? And it's not that everybody can write an application and make it work, but the ability to start building applications or to start putting, thought into action and actually taking committed action around what needs to be done to know. Wisdom is learning from the results of our own experiences. So we apply our committed action, our committed choices, things that we just want. We put it into motion and then we learn from that. And if that can come over a software design, that's what the coder's for. But then we just go back around, we're going to loop this again. So we build this ambient mesh, which basically says, yeah, I might have this Raspberry Pi doing this. I might have this, REST API doing that. I might have a phone call and some notes, or I might be taking smart notes in the Zotto custom method. I might be, speaking with my spouse or my partner or my friend or my co-collaborator, and we just create this ambient mesh that's starting to learn from all the parts of my life and being able to push it into hoppers and pushing all this stuff into places where, um, what I need to know is getting to me somehow eventually, and that there is an overlap. So it takes a little bit of time to think about, okay, yep, these are conflicting. This is too much information. It's really difficult to process all of this. This multiplies. So we streamline, we use computer science. We actually think about, well, this and this and this. But we don't live in a perfect world. So this is where systems thinking and biological methods and learning from what works and learning from what's already working in our lives. So we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just acknowledging that we need this kind of ambient mesh. So instead of needing, level two thinking, attention all the time, demand for concentration, that's a really rare commodity when you compare to all the things we've got to do. We've got very little attention. So we build an ambient mesh, so we make that clean. And then we cycle again on these last three. So it was calendar, conversation, coder. Now we go into playlist, API, domain. And they're the kind of the same thing, higher level. So when I said, hey, I really want capacity to be scheduled with the calendar app, then when we get into a playlist, we're saying, hey, this is how I think moving from this state to this state to this state is sustainable for me. I don't get overwhelmed, or I can get through it for a vacation, but I've got a rest cycle at the end of a vacation so I can get back to life and do a great experience. So pushing my engagements into playlists. So it's really saying, you know, I want to work 25 minutes, 5 minute break, 25 minutes, 5 minute break, use that kind of a process or. So just we do what we do. But let's push things into playlists. So it's the higher level of calendar scheduling or capacity scheduling. And then the API, it's what it is. It's we're actively taking advantage of building an ambient mesh. We're saying, what are all the channels and what are the protocols? How do we talk? Is a YouTube video the best way to get information? What about an outline or a cheat sheet? Is that better? What about a GitHub issue? Is that better? What about an email? Is that better? What about just come to my door, knock on my door, shake my hand, give me a hug, tell me you love me and that you care about me, but you're having an intervention. You're going to tell me the thing that I'm screwing up. That's the interfaces that we build. And then, of course, all the interfaces we do with other applications. So, how do we communicate? And then, how do we escalate that communication effectively through whatever tools we have? And a lot of them will be digital, of course, at least for a long time. And then we push into real domain expertise, where what we're doing is we're taking intelligence seriously. We're saying this stuff matters because, boom, and we're learning and we're pushing on the we're pushing on all levels to really put kind of an observed um, result on the table, either because I learned these skills or I protected these domain experts, or I literally can go through something and get an honest, grown up grasp of what it's about. So when you look at what capacity is doing, what conversation is doing, and then what actual deliveries are, so these kind of correlate with, I think they directly correlate with actor, um, observer, and observed. And so when we're looking at that, we're saying, well, actor is about choice, and actor is about accountability, and so we really want that to exist. And then observation or observer is really about the whole. It's about seeing all of what's going on. And, that's the lucid dream. That's the, relax and see. see the bigger picture, finally get into that Zen moment. And then the observed is really saying, okay, classically, rationally, logically, this is real. And so what the observed is about results a bit, um, and the actor is more about choice, and the observer is more about possibility. So when you think about possibility and growth and open-ended and anything's possible until you get down into, but I'm going to do things in this order with this capacity. So when I get down to say I'm going to do things with this order and this capacity, that's playlist, that's capacity scheduling, and there are actually higher levels of this. We've got 9 levels of this planned out. I think it gets really cool as we just start using lower tools to build bigger things. So what we do is we say, oh, okay, so when we look at all the possibilities, we're open to new possibilities. Uh, that really is about calendar and playlist. And then when we really make it about um, choice, what we're saying at this point is uh, uh, that's really the choice is really about the coder. It's really about the domain. These things starting to mix because they use each other's tools so much in my head. But the coder and domain is really about the actor, I think. And then the observed is really the conversation, the API. What is basically the result of what we've done. When we get things delivered and get people onboarded, when we actually say we have a channel of protocols, that's the observed, that's the rational, clear, rely on this. So we can go from kind of an open world, push it into choice through an actor, and then see what occurred. And that is, I think, one on ramp to consciousness. And if so, we can be ourselves without it being about these tools. These tools are just simply maybe a ladder or a rope ladder or a hand up or some instruction. We'll see. But it's a way that I think we can push these big things through kind of a narrowly defined set of circumstances or tools. We'll see. That's my on ramp to consciousness, and then that gets us through some foresight where we have what the awareness functionality to start to see where things are going. After that, what we really want to do is look at accountability to others around us. So we're really saying we're auditable, and regulations and rules and reality needs to be addressed. And then when we can get that far, let's say, who do we trust to actually collaborate with and be partners with? And then after that, we say, but how do we actually serve the people we love and create a shared environment? And then when we do that, we say, what do our critics add to the conversation? Things that we wouldn't naturally agree with, but would like to have an answer to or have the system answer to, so that we can learn and adapt and change so that where we're going doesn't have to be where we end up being at the end of the day. It just simply says, to the best of our knowledge, that's a great direction. We keep doing course correction. And even those that we really struggle to see eye to eye with, they have a voice because they have a stake in the outcome of what we're doing, especially as if we're incredibly successful, that becomes even more and more important, the people that we disagree with. And then we go from there, we actually build community, and we say it takes all of us. And so what's going on in our communities? Digital, analog, religious, spiritual, agnostic, academic, um, the accident of neighbors, geography, right? Traveling, what communities are we building? Shared interests, shared outcomes, grieving, capacity to engage in community and honor and protect community. And then we finally get into the magical realms. What we do before any of this, we take care of ourselves. The early stuff is just take care of ourselves. We use those low level offered operation tools for ourselves, and we get them at higher levels too. But when we're off and we need a rest, when we're on and we're actually doing our best work, or we're starting to engage our lives, that's the beginning. And then when we finally get to the magic realms, what we're saying is we're engaging in the art of getting results. It doesn't have to make sense. It's large scale engagement. It's building momentum. It's a lifetime's opus. It's what happens when the Beatles play at Shea Stadium. It's what happens when AI regenerates John Lennon on yesterday, and I bawl my eyes out the first 10 times see that show. It's like there's a magic that involves going beyond the easy to explain, or the desire to explain it. And it probably shouldn't be very digitally involved, but if we don't have magic in our lives, if we don't have joy in our lives, if it doesn't have a grace there, if we're not getting results, whether or not we can explain really how it's happening. Tom Brady, or if you don't like Tom, I don't know, I'm not a sports guy, but sometimes I'll like they did that. That was a human being with on the order of magnitude about the same resources I have, and they did something that's absolutely magical to my eyes. I don't even comprehend. I think it was it Stephen Curry. Saw, from way out in the, off court, just throwing a basketball right into all net, and like that guy. But I saw his master class, where he talks about shooting free throws, and about aligning everything he's about into getting that basketball to go where he wants it to go. But similar, I see from a lot of the painters. They're showing me oil paint and how they do that. And then, of course, the masters at the museums, like, wow. So the magic happens when we really build a life's opus. But I don't know that it has to take 50, 60, 70 years with ideal, you know, um, privileged circumstances. I just think that as we love, we value, and as we value and love and we honor and we serve, we start getting results differently. So that's where it would be nice if I can inspire some of that, or if you can see that in me, or it was already knew all along, but just we remind each other. So I'm willing to put stakes down at that ninth cycle where it really says, you know, I'm all in. And I'm willing to be vulnerable, and I'm willing to be seen, and I'm willing to get it wrong and be told how to do better. But that's how I can engage. So anyway, that's our critical path. And today was a rest day. But I was meditating and it got really emotional, and I just like I haven't even said a word for about a day or two to anybody about this stuff. And it's like it's 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 cooking. It's cooking. So all right. Talk to you when I do.